People are constantly searching for things outside of themselves that's going to fix them. It's like, take a look at yourself first, calm yourself down and calm your nervous system, and you'll find more clarity.
So hello and welcome to the Recovery Project. Today we have Chenin joining us. Now, I don't know very much about Chenin's recovery. I'm really curious to hear more, but we've had a brief chat on the phone. It sounds interesting. So welcome to our show, Chenin.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Mel. It's, I think this conversation's been a long time coming for me anyway.
Nice. Cool. So tell us, first of all, what were you suffering with? How bad was it? What was the starting point of this journey that needed a recovery in it?
Well, I think, it probably started a long time before it started, if you know what I mean. I felt I'd probably go back as far as 2011, 2012. 2013 was when we had our daughter in October, and from sort of that point on, that's when the symptoms skyrocketed. But prior to that, I would have been experiencing high-end anxiety without realizing it. So it wasn't until 2016 that I really had the wake-up call when I couldn't get out of bed. My symptoms had got so bad, and I didn't realize I was suffering from chronic fatigue. Well, actually, no one picked it up. That was the other thing.
Did you get told a lot, oh, you're just tired because you've got a new baby and that's normal? And
and I'm like, well, how do people have more than one kid if you feel this crappy all the time? And it was just, okay, here's some antibiotics for this infection. Here's some more antibiotics for this infection. And luckily that was just for me. I mean, our daughter was sick constantly as well, but she hasn't had antibiotics and she's now 9. And I'm, very thankful for that. But for me, it was, all my life, it was, you're sick, here's some antibiotics. There wasn't any other solutions or any other questions. Are you stressed? Are you tired? Is your hair falling out? Because it was. Lumps and clumps from the stress. But it wasn't until the end of 2016 I'd already started to make changes in my life. I'd left the ambulance service that I'd been in for 8 years. I was in so much pain. I mean, I think when you've got chronic fatigue, I mean, you fully understand what it's like. I do. But unless you've had it, it is an indescribable feeling, that just not being able to move, the extreme pain in my joints, and the guilt for me of not being able to get out of bed to play with our daughter. And gosh, that still makes me emotional now. Isn't that funny? And my husband having to stay home for me because I couldn't take care of myself or anyone else. The brain fog was addressed with having a gluten issue early on by a gynecologist of all people.
Whoa.
My story is so bizarre of how I got led to things, but about a year after having our daughter, I went to donate my eggs because it was something I was going to do prior to having our daughter. When we'd been trying for a few years, couldn't get pregnant, and I thought, well, I've got good eggs, so let's donate them. And then,
wow, cool.
Long and the short of it was, I got pregnant at the, when we least expected it. But so that was something I wanted to do. And so I went down that route again. And the week out of donating the eggs, so I'd already met the couple that I was going to donate to. I rolled over in bed and something tore in my lower abdomen. No idea what. So I got sent to the scans and a gynecologist, and she's like, you are so bloated. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm bloated all the time. She's like, just try cutting out wheat. And so that helped the brain fog. I mean, I still had brain fog, and I still was not sleeping, so the brain fog was always there. But that definitely, like within a few days, I was like, wow.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I found your workshop.
So that was the 2-hour live seminars that I used to hold around the country.
Yeah, that was in Dunedin.
Nice. Because that is the one that's now filmed, that's available every single day, twice a day online for people, so they don't have to wait till I travel around the country. So yeah, so that's basically the Next Steps to Recovery webinar, but you did it as a live event. So what did you learn from that event that was life-changing for you and helped you get back on track with your health and getting rid of chronic fatigue syndrome?
Yeah, so I mean, for one thing, that day blew my mind because here I was in Dunedin. It was in a big hall or a big church.
Yeah.
How many people were in that room?
120, I think.
Yeah, and I was like, are all these people experiencing the same thing as I am, or something similar?
Yes,
and we're all
they
going
were.
through. I know that for one blew me away. Like, and you have to remember, I come from like a medical background. I was, used to helping people from a medical perspective, and here's all these people that couldn't get help. So that was the first thing for me. I was like, well, I'm not alone. There's definitely times you think you're crazy and it's all in your head, and you tell yourself to get over it. I think there was two big things there for me that day. One of them, the question you asked, and I don't remember exactly, and I know I said to you, I've got your bit of paper somewhere, and I couldn't find it today, but it was, what are you gaining by staying sick?
Interesting.
That was a big one for me, and I'd never thought about that. It's like, well, how can I be gaining something, I don't want to feel like this. But the more I sat with it, it was like, oh, by being sick, I get to rest. Now, here's a mum who has not slept in 2.5 years or 3 years. I was so sleep deprived. Some kids sleep well, some don't. And so that was the first thing. I wanted rest. I wanted to lay on the couch and do nothing.
Felt like you could then justify sleeping on the couch during the day if you've got chronic fatigue.
Yep. And that was a really hard thing for me to admit. And I can feel that emotionally now still. That I didn't want to be sick, but I was exhausted, I was just so beyond.
It's such an interesting question because, I think sometimes people think, oh, does that mean you're saying I'm making it up? It's like, no one's making up their illness. Their illness is real and they can really want to get better. But if there's some subconscious thing that makes it scary to get better, that can hold you back.
Absolutely. I was holding myself back. But I also needed the rest. It was such a catch-22. And then you get to the point where, you rest so much, you would benefit from the exercise, but you're too tired to exercise and can't see the benefits from the exercise. So you would feel good for going for a walk, but you're too tired to get up and go for the walk. So it's like,
and you pay for it the day after and all that.
Yeah. It's such a mind game, but that was a really hard one for me to admit. But I managed to find that in there, and I think I was sort of in tears at that point when you asked that question, because I was like, oh. So in hearing your story that day, knowing that you'd been sick for so long, this was only a short period for me, but it seemed like a lifetime. I was like, well, there's the hope factor. I'm like, well, shit, look at you standing in front
bundle
of
of energy.
Yeah, you were just like on fire. And I'm like, well, where did all that come from? Where have you got that energy? So that was the hope part. But you explained, the stress response to me.
Yeah.
And it was like everything you were explaining, I'm like, that's me. That's me. That's me. And I'm like, how do I not know this? I know about the human body. I did not know, or, did not know what stress was having, the effect it was having me on a physical, a mental, emotional level. And I wanted to stand up. Like the little Chenin in me was like, pick me, it's me. You know, I wanted to stand up and go, that is me. You've just nailed it. I'm everything you've just said. And that was really on, like that was the first page or something of your little worksheet.
Yeah, so that was right at the start. And I know, you know, the same thing for me. When I heard that principle, it was like, wow, now I understand how my body was just so exhausted that it couldn't reboot all my digestive system and my hormone system and my immune system and everything else, because it's all exhausted by being stuck in stress all the time. So, and the stress of being ill so long makes you more stressed because it's so stressful when there's no answers.
Yeah, no hope. You wake up every day. I would stress before going to bed, thinking, how often am I going to have to get up tonight? And then I would stress waking up the next morning thinking, I'm going to have to do this all over again. And it's going to be the same. So I was on that loop. Help people with now even. It's like before you start anything else, you have to calm your stress response. You have to calm your nervous system.
Totally. My resting pulse used to be 118 beats a minute before I'd even got out of bed in the morning.
Mine was 110. Mine was 110.
Yeah. Yeah. See the levels of stress that the body's under.
Yeah.
No wonder they can't heal. No wonder you're exhausted all the time when your stress levels are that high.
But then from a medical perspective, right, you see a resting heart rate as that. It's infection. That's their first go-to. It's you've got an infection, so let's treat the infection.
More antibiotics, the more trashing your immune system.
Yeah, it's just there is a missing question, and I know you do a lot of stuff with the GPs and that, but right from the beginning, it's where your stress levels are at before
and no one ever asked that. In all those years, no one asked me, what are you stressed about? And how, you know, I mean, they measured my cortisol levels every 3 months and they were always triple what they should have been. So they were monitoring a stress problem, but not able to respond to a stress problem.
I know.
So you've had this amazing epiphany through that webinar, seminar, seeing me being so well, contemplating what was holding you back, realizing stress was a big part. Take me through the next few days or weeks after that seminar.
I changed so much. Now, I'd already started to lower the stress in my life. We'd moved from Auckland to Queenstown. I mean, massive move.
Yeah, nice.
You know, reduced our mortgage. I wasn't working full time anymore. I still had our daughter at home. And so that side of things, I'd already started making some changes without really knowing what I was doing. I changed my diet dramatically because I realized that there was so many foods that were still triggering me at that point because I was so stressed. So sort of try and heal my gut, I needed to calm everything in there. So I cut out, you know, the dairy, the wheat, the sugar. Because at my worst, and I'm so glad there's a really long period there that you don't see me in any photos with our daughter because I had boils on my face. They were everywhere. Like that's how stressed my body was. So it was amazing when I, you know, changed my diet and started to calm myself down, how quickly they went away. I knew that there was lots of things that I hadn't dealt with in my life that were causing stress within me, and that was the catalyst. I started to look at the trauma, the unresolved trauma, the unresolved grief and loss in my life. I guess win for me out of all this was I could see once I started to change, our daughter started to change too. So this, you know, the stress at night, she started to sleep better. We had some food issues with her. I stopped the journal that we were keeping of every, you know, bit that she was eating. We relaxed around her food, and she is a much better eater now than I ever was at her age. So it was such a beautiful thing to see that I wasn't just doing it for me, you know, I was doing it for her as well.
Yeah, so I know, you know, from that, the seminar, you were learning the stress response stuff and thinking patterns to change, and it only touched on you may need to deal with deeper trauma and grief, which then people would often come and do my switch program to heal that. But I know you didn't come and do the switch program. So what did you do that resolved your trauma and grief?
Oh, you know, I got curious about myself. I was like, wow, you know, because you had a list of books too. Yeah, I've never been a massive reader or learner, but since 2016, I can't tell you how many books I've read. I got interested about anything to do with myself and with my nervous system, and, lots of left field stuff, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who works through all the neuroscience and the journey method. And I would sit with myself a lot and think about how it was that I felt. So like, one of the traumatic incidences in my life, I would sit there and go, well, how was it that I actually felt during that time? And I would let the emotions come up, and I would sit with them as long as they needed to be felt, and see what I learned from that whole experience, because I think life teaches you stuff, right? You're always going to be throwing shit at times. That's life, but it's how you deal with things, and the perspective you take on what it is you're experiencing, and not feeling the victim.
Nice.
Because I think I played the victim for a long time, and I'm not sure if that's something you mentioned.
Not in that seminar, no.
But I probably came across that at some point. Was what was I probably that same question of what was I getting out of chronic fatigue? What was I getting out of playing the victim? And having a victim mindset, and how more empowering it is when you take the opposite approach.
Okay, so you basically did it for yourself then, healing that grief and trauma by using those different books, and you're sitting with yourself and processing it. Is that right?
Yeah, and also like lots of different modalities. I've tried everything, energy healing, flow presso, meditating, yoga, so much different stuff. Some that I still do now that I love and I swear by is float spas, salt floats.
Okay.
Because to me, it's the ultimate form of meditation. You're in a nice warm bath with 500 kilos of Epsom salts. So if you're lacking in magnesium, that's going to help you. You're weightless, and you've got no distractions. You're there completely with yourself. So I've tried it a few different ways over the last few years. One is just doing it every now and then, like once every couple of weeks and once a month, which is great. And then I tried it every second day for a month, and I've never felt so good. That doesn't work.
That's interesting. Yeah, I love hearing, because there's so many different things that have worked for people. Because for me it was just these calming the stress response, shifting the thinking patterns, and recovery was from 0 to 100 in 2 weeks. It was just one thing that worked for me. But it's so interesting to hear how many different things can all be part of it. The diet stuff, the float tanks, the meditation, this time, the books, the seminar you did with me, all these different things that all kind of added a different piece of your puzzle together.
So what I do now, so I go by wellbeing support specialist, because then I'm not pigeonholed into one sort of category, which is a bit of coaching, counseling, guidance, whatever you want to look at. So I do it with workplaces. So I go into workplaces and work one-on-one with the staff there, so that they have an opportunity to talk to someone without seeing someone outside of work. And it's just confidential, and I don't know, they seem to be more open to doing that when they know who I am, and I'm very open with my story. I'm a real person, not just someone behind a phone call or something. So I do that with workplaces, but that's most of my work, and with individual clients as well.
So this all grew out of your healing journey, did it? That's what got you into this?
And I think sometimes that's why you have to experience, same as you. Like if I hadn't gone through all this stuff and learned all this stuff about myself, I wouldn't be able to resonate with people. I wouldn't have the rapport that I have with them, or the connection. People are constantly searching for things outside of themselves that's going to fix them. It's like, take a look at yourself first. Calm yourself down, and calm your nervous system, and you'll find more clarity. Because that's the other thing, right? When you're stressed, your intuition is way off. So you can find what it is you're really after, and find some purpose in life for you. Because I think that was my other big aha moment was finding my identity again after leaving the ambulance service and becoming a mum. I'm like, who am I? I don't know who I am anymore. So there was a big search for, well, what is it that I want to do? And not based on other people seeing me as someone, just what is it that I truly desire in life? And I've always wanted to help people. That's why I joined the service. But now I help them in a different way. But I couldn't see that at the time. Thank you, and thank you for the work that you do for people, because I can tell you, you changed my life that day. I don't think I get emotional about that either, but it was, knowing everything that you've gone through, it was for a reason, to help people like me that day. Change my world, not just for me, for my family and everyone now I come in contact with. So you are that ripple. And I'm so ever grateful. Just 2 hours you've had an impact on me.
2 hours, and look at the change in your life.
So thank you, because it's you're making a massive difference, and I will, for one, and my family will forever be grateful.
Oh, thank you. I feel very honoured, very warm fuzzied out. That's a beautiful, lovely feeling to know that, it's all the people that benefit and all the ripples that go further from that benefit. So I'm so pleased I came to Dunedin that day and shared that session with you. So, and now at least it's available every day. So that's, since the world has changed, it's been easier to have it just running online more often for people. So thank you very much for being on the Recovery Project.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing all the learnings, that there's so many pieces to your puzzle that all added up to a great picture of health and wellness, and that you now have so much that you're offering to others. So all the best with the ripples that you are also sending out into the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.